When looking back through the past 10 years, you have your typical heavyweights in film: Moonlight, Get Out, The Avengers, Inception, Whiplash. But, in my opinion, one of the more overlooked films from the past decade is Denis Villeneuve's Sicario. On the surface, it might not seem this way. It holds a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes and received mostly favorable reviews upon release. But in addition to the film's slow burn storytelling and beautiful cinematography, it also presents a question that it brilliantly chooses not to answer: who is good and who is bad? Villeneuve executes on this idea perfectly, and in turn creates a film that not only belongs with the best films of the 2010s, but with the top movies of the 21st century. Now, looking further into this thought, this provocative question that is never directly asked nor resolved, there's absolutely nothing that is crystal clear. And that's the beauty of the film. Sicario doesn't choose to simply take up 2 hours of a viewer's time with a straightforward plotline, but instead inhabits the thoughts of the audience long after the credits roll. Our main outlet into this story is through the eyes of Kate Macer, an idealistic FBI agent assigned to a case that is never fully explained to her. Throughout the film, she goes through twists and turns, with her mission frequently being changed to the point where she doesn't know who she can trust. It starts out as a simple apprehension of wanted cartel leaders, which is compelling to the almost naive Macer, who has seen for herself the horrible acts that they are capable of, but over time it morphs into something much more intricate and morally ambiguous. And this is where a question is brought up: who is truly on the good side? Even though we have the advantage of perspective, everyone in the story is fighting for otherwise rightful and justifiable causes. A lot of times this is subtle. Take for instance when we are introduced to Ted, a member of the cartel. Instead of putting him in an evil-looking jail cell or something of the sort, he is shown at his own house, with his wife and daughters innocently enjoying time in the pool. And after he's found out, the way Matt and Alejandro get him to talk is by threatening his own family, which seems pretty evil in and of itself. Other times, this is outright portrayed. When Alejandro breaks into Alarcon's household, he holds him and his family at gunpoint and by a string, before brutally murdering everyone but the father, the same exact thing Alarcon did to him.
It cut off his wife's head and threw his daughter into a vat of acid.
And it isn't some triumphant revenge like in Django Unchained or The Equalizer 2. It's bittersweet, only reaffirming the idea that no one is truly a protagonist or antagonist, and in the end, no one really wins. This also manifests itself in other characters. Mexican cop Silvio is shown throughout the film as a loving father and member of a family, but later on it's revealed that he is part of the drug trade. This doesn't turn him into some thumb-twiddling villain though. He does this only to help put food on the table and keep his family alive. And he is still a character you can empathize with, so when he is killed, it is no less cause for concern or tragic. Matt Graver, who is brilliantly portrayed by Josh Brolin, is also a very shady character who is supposedly on the good side. That being said, he constantly takes moral liberties to accomplish things that are only really correct in the eyes of his superiors, the people he works for. Whether it be straight out lying to FBI agents assigned to his case, or openly allowing a vengeful man to kill someone else's family, he certainly is no perfect figure, which can really be applied to any character from the story. Even Kate has her flaws, as her almost frustrating efforts to stay within borders that she herself seems to make constantly puts the mission at jeopardy. When taking into account all these examples of normal people doing considerably evil things to carry out understandable tasks, it is easy to see why Sicario boasts such depth. It takes the simple concept of a war on drugs and throws a variety of unique ideas and moral boundaries that aren't really set by anyone in particular that make for an extremely nuanced and resonant watch. All these conflicting ideals come to a head in the final scene of the film, when Alejandro forces Kate to sign a document legitimizing the mission that was, needless to say, far from that. Instead of saying this is the right thing to do, or telling her it's wrong but to tough through it anyway.
You're not a wolf, and this is the land of wolves now.
He instead tells her that she's living in a land of wolves, and she herself is not a wolf, wrapping up a giant metaphor that the world we live in today isn't one of good and bad. but instead one full of people that will do anything to survive.